The small scout ship shook violently as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Inside, Kang gripped the control panel, his four-fingered hands working quickly to stabilize the failing craft. Warning lights flashed red across the console. System failure imminent, the ship's computer announced in a flat voice. Hull integrity compromised. Kang hissed in frustration. His mission was supposed to be simple. Fly to Earth, scan for defenses, and report back to the Na'vi collective fleet. No contact with humans. No detection. Just information gathering. Now his ship was breaking apart. Through the view screen, he watched as pieces of the outer hull tore away. The ground below, a dense forest of green trees, rushed up to meet him. Kang braced for impact. The crash was deafening. Metal twisted and tore as the ship plowed through trees, leaving a long scar of broken wood and scorched earth behind it. When the ship finally stopped, silence fell, broken only by the hiss of ruptured coolant lines and the crackle of small electrical fires. Kang hung upside down in his safety harness, blood from a gash on his forehead dripping up to the ceiling of the inverted craft. He released the harness and fell to what was once the ceiling, grunting in pain as his shoulder hit the hard surface. "Assessment," he croaked, commanding the ship's computer. "Ship beyond repair. Distress beacon damaged. Communications partially functional." The computer paused. "Warning. Impact detected by Earth defense systems. Human response team approaching." Kang cursed. He needed to move fast. Grabbing his survival pack and a small energy weapon, he kicked open the damaged side hatch and crawled out into the forest. The air was thicker than on his homeworld, and the gravity slightly stronger. Each breath burned in his lungs as he stumbled away from the wreckage. His blue-gray skin, normally hidden beneath his environmental suit, was exposed where the fabric had torn during the crash. Behind him, the ship's self-destruct sequence initiated. A dull boom echoed through the trees as the craft imploded, leaving only a smoking crater. It would slow the humans down, but not for long. Captain Jin stood at the edge of the impact site, his face grim. Around him, members of Earth's security force searched through the debris, their weapons ready. "Sir, there's no body," reported Hoon, his second in command. "But we found this." He held up a piece of torn fabric unlike any Earth material. Jin took the fabric, rubbing it between his fingers. "It's one of them all right. The Na'vi. Command warned us they might be scouting." 10 years had passed since humans first encountered the Na'vi collective. The initial meeting had ended in bloodshed when the aliens opened fire on the human ambassador ship, declaring that the galaxy could not support two expanding species. Since then, tensions had remained high, with occasional skirmishes at the edges of human space. "The alien can't have gone far," Jin said, looking at the forest around them. "Fan out. Search pattern Alpha. Remember, we want it alive if possible. Command needs intelligence." The soldiers moved into the forest, sensors sweeping for any sign of alien life. Jin checked his own scanner, noticing a faint trail of unknown biological residue leading north. "Blood, most likely. Team 1 with me," he ordered, gesturing to the trail. "The rest of you continue the search pattern. It's injured and alone on a foreign planet. Let's find it before nightfall." As the team moved deeper into the forest, dark clouds gathered overhead. The weather satellite had predicted a major storm system moving in. Jin picked up his pace. They needed to find the alien quickly. In the distance, a low rumble of thunder sounded. The storm was coming, and somewhere in the forest ahead, a wounded enemy was running for its life. Kang moved through the forest as fast as his injured body allowed. Each step sent pain shooting up his leg. The wound on his side was worse. A piece of his ship had cut deep during the crash. Blue blood seeped through his fingers as he pressed his hand against it. The forest was nothing like his home planet. Here, everything was too green, too wet, too alive. Strange sounds came from all directions, small creatures scurrying away, birds calling warnings. The air smelled of soil and plants and coming rain. He stopped to rest against a large tree, breathing hard. From his pack, he pulled out a small device, his emergency communicator. It flickered weakly as he tried to send a distress signal to any Navy ships that might be close enough to hear. "This is Scout Kang," he whispered into the device. "Crashed on target planet. Humans in pursuit. Request immediate extraction." Only static answered him. Kang hit the device against his palm in frustration. The communicators sparked and went dark. "No," he hissed. Without contact with his people, he was truly alone on this hostile world. Rain began to fall, light at first, then harder. It might help hide his tracks, but it made the forest floor slippery and treacherous. Thunder boomed overhead as the storm grew stronger. Captain Jin wiped rain from his face as he studied the tracker in his hand. Despite the weather, the aliens' trail was still visible to their advanced sensors. Small traces of blue blood marked the path. "It's slowing down," Jin told his team. "The blood trail is getting heavier." Hoon nodded, water dripping from his helmet. "Good. Maybe it will just collapse and make this easy for us." Jin frowned. "Don't underestimate it. Cornered animals are the most dangerous, and we know almost nothing about what these Navi are capable of on the ground." The team moved forward, weapons ready. The rain made visibility poor, but their thermal scanners were still working. They spread out in a wide arc, closing in on their target from multiple directions. Jin's comm unit crackled. "Sir, I have a reading. Something warm-blooded, not matching any known forest animal. 300 meters ahead, moving slowly." "Close in," Jin ordered. "Remember, non-lethal if possible." Kang sensed them before he saw them. Some deep instinct made the scales on the back of his neck rise. He pressed himself against a fallen tree, trying to control his ragged breathing. Through the curtain of rain, he spotted them, human shapes moving carefully through the trees, weapons in hand. They were hunting him in a pattern, trying to surround him. There were too many to fight, and nowhere to run. But Kang was a Navy scout, trained to survive. He gripped his energy weapon and waited for his moment. When the first human passed close to his position, Kang struck. He fired a quick blast that hit the soldier in the leg. The human fell with a cry of pain. Immediately, the forest erupted with shouts and the sound of running feet. Kang fired again at another shape, then turned to run. Pain shot through his body as he pushed himself up a steep ridge, slipping on wet rocks and mud. Behind him, energy weapons fired, sending bright blue bolts past him into the trees. One blast hit a tree beside his head, showering him with burning splinters. Kang lost his footing and tumbled down the other side of the ridge, rolling painfully over rocks until he crashed into a ravine below. The fall knocked the breath from his lungs. He tried to stand but couldn't. His leg was bent at a wrong angle. He still held his weapon, pointing it upward at the ridge where the humans would soon appear. Captain Jin was the first to reach the edge, looking down at the injured alien. Their eyes met across the distance, human and Navi, each seeing an enemy. "Surrender," Jin called down. "We can help you." Kang snarled and fired his weapon. The shot went wild as pain made his hand shake. In response, multiple weapons pointed down at him from the ridge. "Fire," Jin ordered, his voice hard. The ravine lit up with blue light as energy bolts rained down. The storm raged through the night and into the morning. By dawn, the rain had stopped, but the forest floor remained wet and muddy. Captain Jin stood at the edge of the ravine, looking down at where the alien had fallen. "No body," Hoon said, climbing back up the slope. "Just blood. Lots of it." Jin frowned. It couldn't have survived those hits. "Maybe animals dragged it away," another soldier suggested. Jin nodded slowly. "Possible. The storm is making it hard to track now." He looked at the gray sky. "We need to get our wounded back to base. We'll return when the weather clears and recover the body. Command will want to study it." The team gathered their equipment and their two injured comrades. With one last look at the ravine, Jin led them away through the dripping forest. 5 kilometers away, at the edge of the forest, smoke rose from the chimney of a small wooden cabin. Inside, Dai placed another log in the fireplace and poured himself a cup of hot tea. Outside the window, the forest dripped with rainwater. Dai was a quiet man who preferred the company of animals to people. After years as a combat medic, he had seen enough of war. Now he lived alone, studying the wildlife in the forest and occasionally helping the nearby village when someone was sick or hurt. His only companion was Maru, a white and tan Jindo dog with alert ears and intelligent eyes. Maru lay by the fire, watching Da prepare breakfast. Storms passed. Dad told the dog, placing a bowl of food on the floor, "We can go for our walk soon." Maru's tail wagged at the word walk. The dog ate quickly, then went to the door and waited, looking back expectantly at his human. Day smiled. Okay. Let me get my boots." Soon, they were walking along a familiar trail through the forest. Dai carried a small backpack with water, a first aid kit, and his notebook for recording wildlife observations. The forest was quiet after the storm, with only the occasional drip of water from the trees and distant bird calls. Maru trotted ahead, nose to the ground, following interesting scents. Suddenly, the dog stopped. His ears perked up, and his body went still. "What is it, boy?" Dai asked, catching up. Maru sniffed the air, then darted off the trail into the trees. "Maru, come back," Dai called, but the dog was already disappearing into the undergrowth. With a sigh, Dai followed. Maru sometimes chased squirrels or rabbits, but he always came back. This time was different. The dog was moving with purpose, not the playful bouncing of a chase. Dai pushed through wet bushes and climbed over fallen logs, following the sound of Maru's movement. The ground began to slope downward. Dai realized they were heading into a ravine he had never explored before. "Maru," he called again. A bark answered him, not the excited bark of a dog on a trail, but a sharp, urgent sound. A call for help. Dai hurried forward and found himself at the edge of a steep drop. Carefully, he made his way down, holding onto roots and rocks for balance. At the bottom, he stopped in shock. Maru stood guard over a body unlike anything Dai had ever seen. Not human, but humanoid. Blue-gray skin, 4-fingered hands. The creature lay in a pool of dark blue liquid that Dai realized must be its blood. Its chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. An alien. A real, living alien. Dai had heard the news reports about alien encounters in space. The Navi, they were called. Enemies of Earth. Dangerous. But this one was hurt badly. Multiple wounds marked its body. Burns that looked like energy weapon hits. It wouldn't live much longer without help. Maru whined and nudged the alien's hand with his nose. The dog looked up at Dai with pleading eyes. "You want me to help it?" Dai asked in disbelief. Maru barked once and stood protectively over the wounded alien. Dai knelt beside the creature, his medical training taking over despite his fear. He checked for a pulse, finding it weak but present in what he guessed was the alien's neck. "I don't even know how to help you," he told the unconscious alien. But Maru's eyes never left his, full of trust that his human would know what to do. Dai took a deep breath. "Okay, boy. We'll try." Dad looked at the wounded alien, then back at the steep climb out of the ravine. There was no way he could carry the creature up that slope by himself. "We need to make a stretcher," he told Maru, who sat watching him with intense eyes. Dai took off his backpack and opened it. Inside was a small folding knife, some rope, and a lightweight emergency blanket. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. He searched the area and found 2 straight, strong branches that had fallen during the storm. Using his knife, he cut them to the right length. Then he removed his outer jacket and stretched it between the branches, tying it securely with the rope. "This won't hold for long," Dai muttered, testing the makeshift stretcher. "But maybe long enough." With gentle hands, he turned the alien onto its side to examine the wounds. 3 energy weapon burns marked its body, one on the right leg, one on the left shoulder, and one dangerously close to what Dag guessed was the creature's heart. Blue blood oozed slowly from each wound. Day took the emergency blanket from his pack and carefully tore it into strips. He wrapped the wounds as best he could to slow the bleeding. "I'm breaking at least 5 laws right now," he told Maru as he worked. "Probably more." Earth's laws were clear. All alien contact was to be reported immediately. Helping an enemy alien was considered treason. But as Dad looked at the injured being, he didn't see an enemy. He saw a patient who needed help. The alien made a soft hissing sound, its eyes fluttering open for a moment. Strange yellow eyes with vertical pupils, like a cat's, looked at Day before closing again. "Stay still," Day said, though he knew the alien couldn't understand him. "I'm trying to help you." When the wounds were wrapped, Day carefully moved the alien onto the stretcher. It was lighter than he expected, though still heavy. He tied more rope to the ends of the branches to make handles. "Okay, Maru, let's go home." The climb out of the ravine was slow and difficult. Twice, Day nearly lost his grip on the stretcher. But with careful steps and several rest breaks, he made it to level ground. From there, the journey back to his cabin was easier, though still challenging. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was high in the sky and Day's arms ached from the effort. Maru ran ahead, pushing the door open with his nose. Inside, Day cleared his small kitchen table and laid the alien on it. Now, in the good light, he could see the creature clearly. It was about his height but thinner, with blue-gray skin covered in small scales. It wore torn black clothing of a material Day had never seen before. Around its neck was a device that looked like advanced technology. "What am I doing?" Day asked himself, his hand shaking slightly as he cut away the alien's clothing to better access the wounds. "This thing could wake up and kill me." Maru whined and placed his head on Day's leg, looking up with trusting eyes. "You really think this is right, don't you?" Day asked the dog. Maru's tail wagged once. Day sighed and went to a cabinet. Inside was his old medical kit from his days as a combat medic. He hadn't opened it in years, but now he laid it on the counter and began taking out supplies. Disinfectant, surgical tools, bandages. "I don't know if human medicine will help you," he told the unconscious alien, "but I'm going to try." For the next hour, Day worked carefully, cleaning and treating each wound. He found and removed 2 small metal objects, energy weapon fragments, from the alien's shoulder and leg. The chest wound was the worst, but by some miracle, it had missed any vital organs that Day could identify. As night fell, Day finished his work. The alien was still unconscious but breathing more evenly. Day had moved it to his own bed and covered it with blankets to keep it warm. He sat in a chair beside the bed, watching the alien breathe. Maru lay on the floor next to the bed, his eyes never leaving the strange visitor. "I hope you know what you're doing, Maru," Day said softly. "Because I sure don't." Day woke with a start. He had fallen asleep in the chair beside his bed. Morning light filtered through the cabin windows. For a moment, he forgot about his strange guest. Then he heard a hiss. The alien was awake. It sat up in the bed, yellow eyes wide with fear and anger. It tried to move away from Day, but winced in pain. "Easy," Day said, raising his hands to show they were empty. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien's hand went to its side, searching for a weapon that wasn't there. Day had removed the energy pistol and hidden it in a cupboard. "Your weapon is safe," Day said slowly. "I just didn't want you to shoot me when you woke up." The alien made strange clicking sounds that Day couldn't understand. It tried to stand but fell back, too weak to support its own weight. Maru, who had been sleeping by the door, trotted over. The dog wagged his tail and put his front paws on the bed, looking at the alien with friendly interest. The alien froze, staring at Maru. It made more clicking sounds, softer this time. "That's Maru," Dad said, pointing to the dog. He found you. He wanted me to help you. The alien looked from the dog to Dai, confusion clear in its strange eyes. It pointed to itself. Yes, we helped you, Daz said with a nod. The alien shook its head and pointed to itself again, then tapped its chest twice. Oh, Day realized. Your name? I'm Da, he said, pointing to himself. Da. The alien seemed to understand. It tapped its chest again. Kang, it said, the sound strange and raspy. Kang, Day repeated. Your name is Kang. The alien, Kang, nodded once. Progress, Dai thought, but they needed better communication. Kang reached for the device around his neck, which Dai had left in place. It was slightly damaged, with a crack across its surface, but Kang pressed several spots on it in a pattern. The device lit up with a soft blue glow. Kang spoke again, but this time, after a short delay, the device made sounds that Day recognized as heavily accented words. Why? Help. Enemy. The device translated. Day blinked in surprise. A translator. Not perfect, but enough to communicate. You were hurt, Day said slowly, hoping the device would translate his words too. My dog Maru found you. I was a doctor, a healer, in the past. Kang listened as the device made clicking sounds, presumably translating Daz's words. The alien's eyes narrowed. Humans, kill Navi, Kang said through the translator. Humans, dangerous. Some humans, maybe, Dai admitted. But I'm not going to hurt you. I want to help you get better. Kang stared at him for a long moment. Then its gaze shifted to Maru, who had settled on the floor beside the bed, watching them both. This creature, Kang said, pointing to Maru. Not afraid. Why? Day smiled. Maru is a dog. Dogs are good at knowing who means harm and who doesn't. He likes you. As if understanding, Maru stood and gently placed his head on the bed next to Kang's hand. The alien jerked its hand away at first, then slowly, cautiously, extended one finger to touch Maru's head. Maru's tail wagged faster. Soft, Kang said, wonder in its voice. He likes it when you scratch behind his ears, Day suggested. Kang looked confused but carefully moved its fingers to the spot Day indicated. Maru closed his eyes in pleasure, leaning into the touch. A strange sound came from Kang, a sort of rumbling that Day realized might be laughter. On my world, Kang said, the translator working better now. Animals fear Navi. No touch like this. Earth animals can be friendly, Day explained. Especially dogs. They've lived with humans for thousands of years. Kang continued petting Maru, fascination clear on its alien face. Why help enemy? Kang asked again, looking directly at Da. Day thought for a moment. Because when I found you, I didn't see an enemy. I just saw someone who needed help. And Maru saw the same thing. 3 days passed. Kang grew stronger. The alien could now sit up in bed without pain and even stand for short periods. Dai changed the bandages twice a day and was pleased to see the wounds healing well. They talked more as Kang's translator device worked better. Dai learned that Kang was a scout, sent to gather information about Earth's defenses. Kang learned that Da had been a combat medic who now lived alone because he disliked violence. Maru became the bridge between them. The dog spent hours by Kang's side, sometimes sleeping with his head resting against the alien's leg. Kang seemed fascinated by this relationship. On my world, Kang explained one evening as they ate dinner, different species do not live together. Navy only care for Navi. Da placed a bowl of soup on the table for Kang. He had discovered that the alien could eat most Earth foods, though Kang preferred meat to vegetables. Humans and dogs have lived together for thousands of years, Da said. We help each other. Dogs warn us of danger, help us hunt, and keep us company. We give them food, shelter, and care. Kang tilted his head, a gesture he had started to copy from Maru. But you are different species. Why care? Day thought about this while he ate his own soup. I think, he said slowly, that caring doesn't have to stop at your own kind. Life is life. Kang was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, my people teach that humans are dangerous, that you will destroy any who stand in your way, that you fight among yourselves and cannot be trusted. Some of that is true, Dai admitted. Humans have fought many wars. We can be dangerous, but we can also be kind and caring. We're complex. Complex, Kang repeated, tasting the word. Yes, more complex than Navi teaching says. Outside the cabin, rain began to fall again. Maru perked up his ears at a distant sound, but soon settled back down. Captain Jin stared at the screen in the command center. Red dots showed where his teams were searching the forest. Still nothing, Hun reported. No sign of the alien body. Jin frowned. The storm had washed away most traces, but his instincts told him something was wrong. An alien corpse doesn't just disappear. Expand the search, he ordered. Check all human settlements within 10 kilometers of the crash site. Sir, another officer called. Satellite detected unusual energy readings 2 days ago, near the edge of the search area. It might be from alien technology. Jin looked at the map where the officer pointed. A small cabin at the forest edge, isolated from the nearest village. Who lives there? Jin asked. The officer checked his computer. A man named Da. Former military, medical corps. Lives alone. Jin nodded slowly. Prepare a team. We'll check it out first thing tomorrow. Back at the cabin, Dai showed Kang pictures on his tablet. Images of Earth cities, mountains, oceans, and different animals. So much water, Kang said in wonder at a picture of the Pacific Ocean. My world is mostly dry. Is that why your people want other planets? Dai asked carefully. Kang's yellow eyes met Dai's. Resources grow scarce. We need room to live. There are peaceful ways to share resources, Dai suggested. Trade, cooperation. War hurts both sides. Kang looked away. Navi leaders do not see it this way. They see only conquest. And what do you see? Dai asked. Before Kang could answer, Maru suddenly stood up, his ears alert. He went to the window and growled softly. What is it, boy? Dai asked, joining the dog. Through the rain, he could see nothing unusual in the gathering darkness, but Maru continued to growl, his body tense. Something wrong? Kang asked, struggling to stand. I'm not sure, Dai said. Maru senses something. He turned on his tablet and checked the security cameras he had installed around his property. On the screen, he saw movement at the edge of the forest, a flash of uniform, a gleam of weapon. Security forces, Dai said, his voice tight. They're coming for you. We need to leave, Dai said, moving quickly around the cabin. He grabbed a backpack and began filling it with food, water, and medical supplies. Kang stood shakily, leaning against the wall. Why help me escape? You will be punished. Dai didn't pause as he worked. They'll take you away. Study you, maybe hurt you. He looked at the alien. You're my patient. I won't let that happen. Maru continued to growl by the window. The security camera showed more soldiers arriving at the edge of the property. They were moving carefully, trying to stay hidden in the trees. They won't attack until morning, Dai guessed. They'll surround the cabin first. Kang reached for his translator device, adjusting some settings. I need to contact my people, he said. Tell them what I've learned about humans. Dai handed Kang his clothes, now cleaned and repaired. Can your people help us? Kang's yellow eyes looked troubled. I don't know, but I must try. While Da continued to pack, Kang activated a hidden component in his translator. It began to pulse with blue light. He spoke in his clicking language, the device translating his words into signals that would reach far beyond Earth. Scout Kang reporting, he said. My mission has changed. Humans are not as we believed. Some show compassion to enemies. They live in peace with other species. I recommend peaceful contact instead of. The device suddenly emitted a loud, clear voice in the Navi language. The translator converted it to human speech. Scout Kang, your position is confirmed. Invasion fleet is already approaching Earth using your crash coordinates. Prepare for extraction after initial attack. Kang's scales paled to a lighter blue. No, Commander Toll, you must listen. The humans err. Silence, Scout, the voice interrupted. Your duty is to await rescue. The attack begins in 2 days. Navy glory is at hand. The connection cut off. Kang stood frozen, the device still glowing in his hands. Da had stopped packing. Invasion fleet, he asked, his voice hollow. Attack. Kang turned to face him, shame clear in his alien features. I did not know. My mission was only to scout. I did not know they were already planning to attack. How many ships? Dad demanded. Many, Kang admitted. Enough to overcome Earth's defenses. Day sat down heavily on a chair. Millions will die. Maru whined and moved from the window to Dad's side, sensing his distress. The dog then went to Kang, looking up at the alien with trusting eyes. Kang knelt slowly, wincing at the pain in his leg, and placed a 4-fingered hand on Maru's head. I do not want this war, Kang said quietly. Not anymore. Day looked up. Then help us stop it. Before Kang could answer, Maru suddenly barked sharply and ran back to the window. Outside, lights cut through the darkness. Powerful flashlights moving toward the cabin. They're coming now, Dad said, jumping up. We have to go. He ran to a corner of the cabin and pulled up a hidden trapdoor in the floor. Below was a narrow tunnel. I built this to observe wildlife, Dad explained quickly. It leads to a blind half a kilometer away, near the river. Kang limped to the trapdoor and looked down. You still help me, even knowing my people come to attack yours. You're not your people, Dad said firmly, and we need to warn Earth about the invasion. A voice boomed from outside, amplified by speakers. This is Captain Jin of Earth Security Forces. We know you're harboring an alien fugitive. Come out with your hands up. Day helped Kang into the tunnel, then called Maru. The dog jumped down without hesitation. Day followed, pulling the trapdoor closed above them. In the narrow space, lit only by Day's small flashlight, they crawled away from the cabin. Behind them, they heard the sound of the cabin door being forced open. Where can we go? Kang whispered. Your people hunt me. My people come to destroy yours. There's a military communications center 20 kilometers from here, Daz said as they crawled. If we can reach it, we can warn Earth about the invasion. And then? Kang asked. Daz had no answer. He just kept moving forward, with Maru leading the way and Kang following behind. 3 unlikely allies in a race against time. The tunnel was narrow and damp. Daz, Kang, and Maru crawled for what seemed like hours. Finally, they reached the end, a small wooden door hidden by bushes. Daz pushed it open, and they emerged into the forest. Rain had started again, turning the ground to mud. In the distance, they could hear shouts and see flashlights moving through the trees near the cabin. They'll find the tunnel soon, Dai whispered. We need to move fast. Kang struggled to stand. His leg wound had reopened during their escape, leaving a trail of blue blood on the tunnel floor. I slow you down, the alien said. Leave me. Save yourself. Day shook his head. Not happening. We go together. Maru barked softly in agreement, pressing against Kang's good leg. Day checked his small backpack. We have food for 2 days. Water. Basic medical supplies. He looked up at the cloudy night sky. No stars to guide us. We'll have to use the river. They moved slowly through the forest, with Maru running ahead to check for danger. The dog seemed to understand the need for quiet, returning often to guide them away from difficult terrain. By dawn, they had reached the river. It flowed fast, swollen by the recent rains. We follow it downstream, Daz said. The communication center is near the old bridge. As light grew stronger, they saw smoke rising from the direction of Daz's cabin. The security forces had burned it. "I'm sorry," Kang said. "You're home." Daz shrugged. "Just a building. The important things are with me." He patted Maru's head and gave Kang a small smile. They rested briefly while Dai changed Kang's bandage. The alien was weak from blood loss, but determined to continue. "My people think humans are cruel," Kang said quietly. "They would not understand what you do for me." "Would any of them do what you're doing?" Dai asked. "Trying to stop the invasion." Kang was silent for a long moment. "Some might, if they knew the truth." They continued along the river, staying under the cover of trees. By midday, they could see the old bridge in the distance, a concrete structure spanning the wide river. "After the bridge, it's 5 more kilometers to the communication center," Dad explained. But as they approached, Maru suddenly stopped. The dog's ears went back, and he growled low in his throat. Dad pulled Kang down behind a fallen tree. Across the river on the bridge were security force vehicles. Soldiers stood guard at both ends. "They've blocked the way," Dai whispered. Kang's yellow eyes scanned the river. "We swim." Dai looked at the rushing water. "Current's too strong. We'd be swept away." They watched the bridge in silence, trying to think of a plan. Suddenly, Maru's ears perked up. The dog looked back the way they had come and growled again. "Someone's coming," Dai whispered. Through the trees, they could see more soldiers approaching along the riverbank. Captain Jin led them, holding a tracker that beeped steadily. "They're following our trail," Dai realized. "We're trapped between them and the bridge." Kang stood up shakily. "I will draw them away. You go another way." "No," Dai pulled him back down. "They'll kill you this time." "Better only one dies than all," Kang said. Before they could argue more, Maru suddenly darted away from them, running toward the approaching soldiers. The dog barked loudly, getting their attention, then ran in a different direction from where Dai and Kang were hiding. "Maru," Dai called softly, but the dog was already leading the soldiers away. "Your dog," Kang said in wonder. "He saves us. And now we need to save him," Dai said, determination in his voice. "Come on. The river is our only chance." They slid down the muddy bank to the water's edge. Dai found a large fallen branch, half submerged in the river. "Hold on to this," he told Kang. "It will help us float. We'll let the current take us past the bridge, then swim to shore." Kang gripped the branch with his 4-fingered hands. "And then we find Maru." "Yes," Dai promised. "We find Maru, warn Earth, and somehow stop this war." They pushed off into the rushing water. The cold hit them like a shock, and the current immediately pulled them into its grip. As they were swept downstream toward the bridge, Dai looked back one last time, hoping to see Maru. But the brave dog was gone, leading their enemies away to give his friends a chance to escape. The river carried Dai and Kang past the bridge. Soldiers on guard didn't notice the 2 figures floating by in the muddy water. When they were far enough downstream, Dai pulled them toward the shore. Exhausted and soaking wet, they collapsed on the riverbank. Kang was shivering, his blue-gray skin paler than before. "Can you walk?" Dai asked, helping the alien to his feet. "Yes," Kang said, though he swayed slightly. "How far now?" 3 kilometers. Dad pointed to a hill in the distance. "The communication center is at the top." They moved slowly through the forest, both worried about Maru and the soldiers pursuing them. The afternoon sun began to dry their wet clothes as they climbed the hill. Finally, they reached a tall fence topped with razor wire. Beyond it stood a group of buildings with satellite dishes and tall antennas. "Earth's Deep Space Communication Center," Dai explained. "From here, we can send warnings to all Earth defense stations." "How do we get in?" Kang asked, looking at the guard post by the gate. Before Dai could answer, they heard barking. Turning, they saw Maru running toward them, his white and tan fur muddy but unmistakable. Maru, Da called in joy. The dog reached them, tail wagging frantically. But his happy greeting was cut short by the sound of vehicles approaching. They followed him, Kang said, looking down the hill. 3 security force trucks were coming up the road. In the lead truck, they could see Captain Jin. No time for a plan, Daz said. We have to surrender and tell them about the invasion. Kang straightened his back. I will speak to your captain. I will tell the truth. They walked out of the trees onto the road, hands raised. Maru stayed by their side, no longer running or hiding. The trucks stopped. Soldiers jumped out, weapons pointed at them. Captain Jin stepped forward, his face hard with anger. Traitor, he said to Da, helping an enemy alien. You don't understand, Da replied calmly. We need to talk. The Navy are coming, a whole fleet. Earth is in danger. Jin's eyes narrowed. More alien lies. Kang stepped forward. Not lies. Truth. My people come to attack Earth. I came as a scout, but now I see we are wrong. Humans are not all enemies. Why should I believe you? Jin demanded. Because I stand here, Kang said simply. I could have escaped. Instead, I come to warn you. Jin studied the alien's face, searching for deception. Then his eyes fell on Maru, who stood protectively between Da and Kang. The dog, Jin said slowly. It protects both of you. Maru found Kang dying in the forest, Dad explained. He wanted me to save him. And now Kang wants to save us. Before Jin could respond, alarms began to sound from the communication center. A soldier ran up to Jin. Sir, multiple objects entering Earth orbit. Too many to count. They're not ours. Jin looked up at the sky, then back at Kang. Your people? Kang nodded. The invasion fleet. We have little time. After a moment of tense silence, Jin made his decision. Get them inside the center. Now. In the communication center, technicians worked frantically. On large screens, they could see the Navi ships, hundreds of them, forming a pattern around Earth. Kang sat at a communication station, speaking into a microphone. His translator converted his words to the Navi language, sending them to the fleet above. Commander Toll, he said, this is Scout Kang. I beg you to stop the attack. Humans are not what we believed. They show mercy, compassion, even to enemies. There can be peace between us. For a long moment, there was no response. Then a voice came through the speakers. Prove what you say, traitor. Kang looked at Da, who nodded. They had prepared for this. Sending visual evidence now, Kang said. On the screen appeared images from Da's cabin security system. Da treating Kang's wounds, Maru staying faithfully by the alien side, the 3 of them escaping together. And finally, Maru standing guard over both human and alien, protecting them equally. A simple Earth animal shows more wisdom than all our war council, Kang said. It knows life is precious, no matter what form it takes. Silence filled the communication center. Everyone waited, watching the ships above. Finally, Commander Toll spoke again. We will talk. 1 month later, Da, Kang, and Maru sat on the porch of a new cabin. In the sky above, Navy and human ships moved in peaceful patterns, beginning the first cooperative mission between the 2 species. Your dog, Kang said, scratching Maru behind the ears, did not just save me. He saved us all. Maru wagged his tail, content to have his 2 friends beside him. At peace.